Hello, back to another channel. I'm JMJ Booksquare, and today we're going to be doing a novel versus video. This is going to be retaining The Housemaid by Frida McFadden and the brand new movie by Paul Feig, which does have the, I don't know how I feel about her, Sydney Sweeney, you know? Like, is she a white supremacist? Is she not? Jury's still out. I think there's a lot of point signs towards one area of another, but I'm really here for Amanda Seyfried. However, having read The Housemaid at this point, very addicting. I gave it a 4-star, but it's not going to really affect the conversation at hand. We're just going to talk about the general plot points in it as well, and then I'll see the movie with my sister after she reads it, and then we'll come back in and we can talk about the movie itself. That being said, for the movie, on a different note, I think everybody is miscast. I don't think there's a single person in that movie that is casted well, based on the book that I read. Fun. Absolutely love that. I heard that Amanda Seyfried is the standout, which is unshocking. She does really well when she's in an unhinged way. And this is somewhat unhinged. The Housemaid, for the most part, the first 40 or 50% is really boring and really repetitive and really annoying. There's a lot of situations and scenarios that just continue to happen over and over and over and over again, to the point that I was genuinely getting frustrated with the book. I wanted it to end. And then part 2 happened, and I was already starting to piece together. So let me tell you about what the book is about, what the story is about. It follows, I can't think of her last name, Millie Wolcott or something of those lines. And she goes into an interview for the Winchesters for a home nanny, or a homemade housemaid, I guess. Eventually she'll be doing some nanny stuff, but it's mostly cooking and cleaning and things along those lines. And she'll be living up in the attic with a door that locks from the opposite side that you would think it should lock. And as she starts this job, she is a convict. She was in jail, in prison for 10 years, and everybody else has turned her down because of this. And as she starts this new job, her nanny, her boss, Nina Winchester, is starting to act very crazy, whereas her husband, Andrew, is taking a liking to her. One would say more suggestively than not. And then the story just branches off into a bunch of twists and some turns and stuff like that, and we can talk all about it now, because this is spoilery territory. Once again, this is a mostly spoiler reviews. We talked about this before in others. You can't really compare things without knowing what you're comparing. So if you've not read The Housemaid or not seen The Housemaid, about the time. If The Housemaid, the movie, is something completely different storyline, it doesn't look like it based on the trailer, I'll come in and I'll do a non-spoiler review for whatever that movie ends up being, and then we'll do a comparison after I talk spoilers for that movie if it's something so different. I don't think it's going to be. This is a story about domestic violence, and also it's a story about abuse is really what hinges here. I'm really happy I read it first. My mom is going to come with us and have a girls' weekend or a girls' night out, and I'm really happy that I read this so she doesn't have to experience the brutality that is in here. This is a particular type of abuse passed down from parent to child, is from what I understand based on the few studies I read on it, because I've watched a few movies on it that I thought were so fascinating. I did some research. Oh, if you like this, I didn't actually know. If you like this, I don't recommend it. If you like what's going on here and you want to see something as fucked up, I'll put the cover on the screen. It starts with Rebecca Hall. The ending is messy. It's super messy. Third act very messy, but I find the first 2/3 very fascinating. As we move forward, some of the big things that are revealed here at the whole beginning, Nina puts herself in a lot of situations that seem kind of weird. For instance, it starts with like a peanut allergy with her daughter, Millie's put herself in a lot of weird situations. A peanut allergy with Nina's daughter, Cece, which her dad says doesn't exist. However, she does. We also learned that Nina had gone into psychiatric care for trying to kill her daughter at one point in this book as well. All this stuff will get explained, and all this stuff is building to a bigger opening twist. The book does begin, and this is the only issue, because I don't think the book opens with someone being dead, pretty typical in the lines of a thriller. It also says chapter 1, Millie. That indicates that there's going to be more than one POV. And I kind of understand by the end why this is the case. However, I don't think it's necessary here. I'm going to be honest with you. I think taking this away holds so much more weight than I think the author, I don't know if she put that much thought into it, but she pushed out a lot of books a year and stuff, so I'm not entirely sure. But there's a lot of weight in that one thing, because I think back to Gone Girl. Gone Girl, for instance, is told in a few different perspectives as well, but it does itself in a way that has a bunch of weight to it. The twist is more twisty. Whereas this one, I had a feeling that Nina was going to get a POV. I had a feeling, I wasn't really sure what they were going with. There's a lot of conversations about healthcare, pregnancy, and that type of stuff, and so I thought maybe that they had agreed to have a home and nanny kidnap her into the room upstairs, or have her have sex with the husband without the wife knowing, kidnap her, put her in this upstairs bedroom, and then nurse her until she gives birth to the baby that they want, and then they kill her off. I'm not really sure. I went really depraved in my brain. Maybe it's the extreme horror I've been reading. I don't really read thrillers anymore. I don't really know. Maybe it's the horror that I've been reading. I don't read thrillers anymore. anymore. But the moral of the story is here that's not the case. This is about domestic abuse. Halfway through the book, we jump from, okay, so Nina and Andrew end up having, or Millie and Andrew end up going out to this night out in town. They end up having sex, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing for all parties involved. Well, it's beautiful for them. I guess it's not beautiful. I mean, I guess in a way it's beautiful for Nina, if you know. She ends up coming home, and Nina ends up throwing a gasket over the whole thing. And, you know, either way, her kid's at summer camp. Andrew ends up kicking her out of the house and says you need to leave. It's mandatory. Prim and Nina, Prim and Millie have like a perfect night and a perfect few days. Millie's scared that Nina's going to show back up because she's sending really crazy signs. Enzo is a character that's in here as well. Enzo has been telling Nina in very odd ways that this is an extremely dangerous situation. However, one of the last things that Enzo says to her before this becomes a much darker book is something that I was really mad that she didn't take, because he gets fired. She's shocked that he can speak Berkshire. I'm looking for the actual line. You are wrong. She is not. And automatically, when I saw she is not, I felt like she is not. Like, it's him. It's Andrew. That is what gave it away for me, that Andrew was the villain of this book. It did take 180 pages, so good for it, as once again, I thought they were in on it. And once this happened, I was like, oh, I don't actually think they're in on it. And because of certain images from the movie that don't pop up here, such as Amanda Seyfried's character showing up like with a bloody shard of glass, I'll put the picture on the screen probably. Because of that image alone, I had really thought that maybe it was Nina and maybe she was actually crazy. But he didn't try to save the daughter. He didn't do anything. He just said, yeah, you guys are good, go. Which is really interesting. That happens. They have sex in her room. She decides she's going to move downstairs. She's going to take control over this house. She leaves 3 books out on the coffee table, and they have sex in her upstairs bedroom. She wakes up the next morning running out to pee, realizing that he's not there, and her door is officially locked. The last few times she thought her door was locked, it had just been really like jammed. There's other things in this room that seemed odd to her. Once again, I don't understand why the bucket was never mentioned in the first half. I feel like that's an oversight as well. It seems more like a twist, and I just feel like the bucket in the room should have been mentioned because it's a weird thing. And she's already thinking everything is kind of weird going on. Jump to part 2, which is Nina's story, and essentially it begins. Step 1. Okay, how to get rid of your sadistic evil husband. A guide by Nina Winchester, indicating that he's sadistic and evil, which he is sadistic and evil. He tortures them. So essentially the rest of the book is her describing her time with him when they first met, how they first met, her being in love with her daughter, him putting it up the fact that she, making it seem like she's crazy, trying to drown her kid, whole 9 yards, drugs. She ends up at a mental institute. Also, and that we also get to see first thing, her roots are not done, and so he locks her inside this room and says you have to pull out 100 hairs from your roots, and I want to see the roots intact, and then I'll let you out. She's in there for 4 days without any food, very little water, and so she's very droggy and stuff. He lets her out. She tries to escape. It doesn't end up working out. Her and Enzo end up in a weird relationship, more like a friendship type of thing. They do eventually end up having sex, but that's not who Enzo's, I guess, it's supposed to end up with. I don't know. They don't end up together. He tells her no by the end, because the thing here is Nina set this all up for Millie to be the next person. However, Nina is aware that Millie is a murderer. She murdered someone in cold blood because of an assault that happened at her dorm at her reformed boarding school, and so she has a thing with this, and so she believed in reality that she could kill him. That is exactly what ends up happening. So Nina's section is it's pretty short, and we're just getting to hear all the horrible things, some really terrible things. I'm not gonna put it here. I'm curious to see which ones they do include if this is the route that they're going down. I have a feeling it is. I don't know how I feel about this movie not Telltale. I don't know how I feel about domestic violence being a plot twist. I've talked about this before, and it works okay here because of what the story is and stuff. However, it really is trying to be the next Gone Girl, and it's not fully working. Not fully working. It kind of does it, but it's not fully working. Nina ends up, essentially, he says you need to put these 3 books on your stomach, and she does it for however long he instructs. Once again, she does it, and he comes in, she pepper sprays him, walks him in the room, and forces him to torture himself until he dies. Nina comes back to the house and sees the body, and she says, I'll take the fall for it, we'll figure this out. Well, Nina is not the first person he's done this to, and the cop who ends up coming onto the case is actually the father of the first person, or one of the first people that he came forward with, and she is now in witness protection and everything else because of how severe the abuse was there before he met Nina. And so the dude said, it's gonna be, you're fine, no problem. And then his mom shows up, and she really did think that his mom, because his mom plays a big factor in her section, she's a bit fucking psycho too, was going to be a bad thing. And then her mom reveals that she knew that he pulled out all these teeth and things were requirements of Millie's. I don't want to get into it, but it's fine. She says, it's okay. I always told him if his teeth get rotten, he needs to pull them out himself. And so I'm happy he did what I asked. what a good boy or something along those lines. And then the book ends with a epilogue from Millie getting another job as a housemaid where she is requested to kill off another husband, equaling a sequel. However, I don't know if that's really what this is following. I'm not sure, but that's the book. So I'll let you know how the movie is when I go see it, and I'll get back to you. We are going to be doing a comparison here in a second from the movie to the book. However, we're going to start with a mini review of the movie. The movie follows Millie, just like the book does, as she gets a job from Nina Winchester, realizing that Nina might be the worst person to ever work for, and she decides she wants a quick way out. However, she has started to take a liking to the husband. Things start to escalate. There's some twists, some plotty twists and stuff. I've learned about a controversy with this book, which is interesting. It makes me want to read the other books, just like I read I read Red Queen and then I read the other one. This one apparently has a similar situation like that. That's fascinating. The movie is fine. I gave it a 4. I felt like Amanda Seyfried. Okay, I still stand true that I think everybody was kind of really miscast here, but I find that Amanda Seyfried's performance was the best and the most nuanced and the most moving, and she had so many layers and so many like little things, and I just absolutely adored it for her. I think it was a great role, and I'm happy that she got it because I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I do wonder if she just loved the character or if what the actual book is about is something that she really wanted to talk about. The comparison section of this video, I don't know if I maybe already talked spoilers in this video, I don't know. It does have spoilers involved. So from this point forward, there are spoilers because I do want to jump into some comparisons. The big thing here, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney is a fine actress. I actually really liked her in Euphoria. I think that's where I was kind of like blown away by her performance, was in Euphoria. However, I've never seen anything with Sydney Sweeney where I was like, oh my god, it's Euphoria. Ever. I've seen a lot of Sydney Sweeney too, because before everything happened this past year, I was a pretty big fan because of Euphoria, and so I did watch a lot of her backlog at one point in life. I have never found anything that I thought that she was like truly excellent in, and here's the thing with this movie in particular, I feel like she's fine, and she's in here for like the cheesecake and the, you know, the whole 9 yards, and so I think that there's like an element to that I think really works. However, the character of Millie has a lot of thoughts, and she works through a lot of problems in this book. There's nothing there. Nothing in her mind whatsoever. Whereas Nina, it's very calculated to the point where I feel like Amanda Seyfried tells too strongly, hey, this is the whole thing for the movie. But I couldn't tell if that's because I knew what the twist was. So I would have to like watch it with someone like my mom who has no idea what the twist is, or someone like my husband or something like that, and be like, what do you think it's going to be? And then him have to guess it and see if the picks up that I picked up, where she was over explaining some things, she mentioned a few things. He constantly talks about her roots, which I don't think was a thing in the book. Maybe I just didn't pick up on it. This is all possibilities. I'd also like to say that the book is not nearly as graphic as the movie is either. There are two very big differences between the ending of these. 3 really big differences between the ending of this and the ending of this. The first one is that in this book, if you guys did not know, the husband, the whole reason why this movie exists, is abusing his wife, Nina, and so she brings in Millie to replace her as the new abuse victim. Really fucked up. That's what she thinks is her solution to get her and her daughter out of a horrible situation, and eventually she does go back and she realizes that Millie did do what she thought she was going to do and kill him, and now they're trying to figure out how to make it seem like it was an accident, whole 9 yards. Well, in this one could say he just died from dehydration and blood loss for sure, because like he does a few things. He has to torture himself for a Millie account, whereas in the movie, not so much the case. So like when this happens, the big thing that Millie does after they are officially together is that she leaves out 3 textbooks and she doesn't put them back because she was kind of looking at them. And so her torture thing inside this book is that she has to place 3 textbooks like on her lower abdomen, I think is what it was, and for like 4 hours or 3 hours or something like that, and she can't move them, and they're really heavy, and so they're like bruising her, and she doesn't do it right the first time, so she's do it again. The stuff that happens to Nina, because Nina is also detailed in here, is really graphic as well, but I'm just going to talk about the changes. So that's like the first thing. In this one, we are dedicated to his mom's China. His mom has a little bit of a substantial role in the movie. I can understand why, based on the actress they chose. I think she was a great choice, in my opinion. But in the movie, she ends up breaking the China because she ends up getting scared by Enzo, who does not have as an integral role as he does in the book, as he does in the movie. He's so important and he's so crucial to everything else. However, it's such a throwaway role that, like, I don't know, for as well as they casted Enzo, it's such a throwaway role. Either way, for this, he makes her which makes no sense. The thing here is, I don't know what he was trying to get at, in my opinion, except for us to feel, oh, he is cruel, oh, he is horrible. He makes her cut her abdomen 20 times with a sliver of the plate that she broke because China is precious and so is she. I mean, on one hand, it's like breaking the object that you love, and now you can only love her because she has these scars. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. There's something to take away from this. But either way, so she runs around for the rest of the movie with these like bloody things, bloody 20 lines on her stomach. And no one talks about it, no one mentions it, and it's for days. And so maybe she does patch it up, but I wish there was like a sequence where it showed it, because that was like one of my biggest complaints. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, dude, what are you doing by your stomach? I don't... Like, what the fuck? And what they end up having to do towards the end, because that's like one of the changes. So the other change is that Nina does prepare for this to happen, that Millie would eventually get locked into this room. And so she, in the piss bucket that he has in there for him, had a bottle of pepper spray, or bear mace or something. And Millie ends up using it to blind him, take the phone, and then we move forward into like what the whole thing is. His thing is teeth. I don't want to get into that, but either way, that's what she ends up torturing him with, and he ends up dying from blood loss based on teeth from this particular thing. In the movie, he does not end up dying. She stabs him in the neck with a like a pie cutter, I guess is the right word. It's very shallow. It looks like it's bleeding a lot, but I don't know, they make it seem like he could survive it. And so that's like another big difference, is how she gets away, is she does stab him in the neck, and she breaks all the china, and he pulls out his teeth. And then Nina comes home. They end up getting into a little bit of fisticuffs with Nina, because she ends up falling downstairs because she unlocks the door. And then he ends up dying. He dies in the room in the book, and the book ends relatively soon after that. In the movie, it's a bit more cinematic, right? He ends up falling over the stairway. Millie ends up pushing him off the stairs, and he ends up bashing his head a bunch of times and dies. Still dies, and the outcome's still the same. The outcome is still very much the same like with the book. No one gets in trouble. The person who ends up coming to look after this case is related to the person he did this to prior to Nina, and so she finds it fine. And then, I think it's a dude in this book, but like, whatever, the gender doesn't matter. It's just the connection that matters. And then in the very end with the epilogue, well, before the epilogue, but the very end, like with the last thing for Nina, whatever, with the mother, the line's still the same. Is that like, he knew that teeth were precious or something like that. And so that was a conversation that was had. And Nina still got all the money. She worked out just fine. And then Millie ends up taking another job with the housemaid as well. The only thing here is that from what I understand, the housemaid's secret, Millie is still very poor. And at the end of the movie, she's handed a $100,000 check to start over in life and still continue doing her housemaid-y things. And they're planning on doing a sequel because it did. We did. So enjoy well. We'll see if I end up reading it or talking about it. But either way, that's the housemaid. Let me know in the comments about how you feel about the Housemaid. I like the book a bit better than the movie. The movie was super... I mean, Cipher was so good that I would recommend the movie. However, it's not necessary, like, if that makes any sense. I feel like anybody who did see the movie has already seen the movie, though. To be fair, the audience... And we're about to move on to people being on vacation anyways, so... But it was a good adaptation. Very Paul Feig, very, like, outrageous. But, yeah. Alright, that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll talk to you all next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.